YouTube is rolling out a new feature in Studio that it is calling Inspiration. It's essentially a GPT-style chatbot designed to create content ideas for content creators. Now, this is what it looks like for me. I've just clicked on the Inspiration tab here. I haven't entered any text-based prompts. It has generated a few ideas along with thumbnails and titles for me in here. I imagine if you had a cooking channel, a fitness channel, or a channel dedicated to conspiracy theories about the moon landing, that it would look very different to mine. But I make videos about loud guitar noises, and it has spat out a few ideas, apparently with very high interest on them. So pedalboard evolution, then and now, 1980s guitar gear recreated, 10 guitar sounds you've never heard before, guitarists on live TV, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and that one must have been really bad or really ugly because it couldn't create a thumbnail, and then building a pedal board on a budget. You can see this one's got medium interest, this one has high interest, and these three here are ranked as having very high interest. Before we click on any of them, I have a few questions immediately. Is this interest generated by metrics only from my channel, or is it based on, I guess, a bunch of data collected about similar guitar noise channels on here? Furthermore, you can brainstorm. So rather than just plug a bunch of ideas in, I'm just gonna roll with what this Inspiration tab thinks I should make. Let's click on 1980s guitar gear recreated, because this feels like it's on point for my channel. I'm gonna click on it, and you can see it will generate an outline, titles, and thumbnails in here, as well as an overview. So I think one of the strong points of something like, say, ChatGPT can be as an assistant to maybe kickstart some ideas, maybe to get your creative juices flowing. You know, if the caffeine hit you had in the morning really isn't doing its job, but you need to do some work, you need to do some programming, you've got a vague outline of an idea that you would like to make, but you don't want to sit there and do a bunch of dot points, they can be very handy. So you can see here, 1980s guitar gear recreated. The sounds of 80s rock are recreated using modern gear. Discover how to capture the iconic tones of classic guitarists using pedals and amplifiers from today. This is a type of video that I've made a lot on my channel. It even gives an outline and it breaks it into different sections over here. So the 80s guitar sound, a legacy of innovation. The 80s were a golden era for guitar innovation with new technology shaping the sound of rock. This is pretty good so far. I'm kind of agreeing with these points. From synthesizers to distortion pedals, the 80s guitarists experimented with new tools to create their signature sound. And the iconic tones of this era have inspired generations of musicians, and we are still exploring their possibilities today. Then it goes through exploring the key elements, modern gear, recreating the classics, tone exploration, recreating your favorite riffs, beyond the 80s, a modern twist. I would say this is actually a pretty cool outline, and this is the sort of thing that I will often jot down before I do a video. None of my videos are scripted. This one is not scripted, but I will often just kind of write down a bunch of dot points, mostly just to help with my own thought process. But once I start rolling, I will generally just be like a bull in a china shop, and I'll go for it and see where I end up. And if I have to, I can save it in the edit. But for somebody like me, this actually provides a pretty good overview on here. So you can see the recreate your favorite riffs. It suggests stuff like Van Halen, Def Leppard, and other legends. So it's kind of gone for two of the most popular artists from the era. Hasn't really suggested anything maybe underground, like what about Blue Murder or Rat or something like that? Not that Rat were underground, but I don't know, think of some obscure 80s band and I would want to do a video on it in there. You've got some suggestions in here for modern gear, although it doesn't actually highlight any specific modern gear that would do it. This is a pretty generic little point in here. Again, as someone who could read this, I could immediately go, hey, maybe I'll use my Axe effects. Maybe I'll use my Soldano X88 and a Fractal VP4. You know, I can fill in the gaps there easily enough. So I do not mind this at all as an outline. The thumbnails are pretty terrifying and horrific and basic in here. Yeah, the less said about that, the better. I'm sure like early mid-journey, this will get a lot better as we go on, but you know, it's got that uncanny valley thing going on. In fact, no, it just has early AI image generation going on. I think these are kind of trash. A great example of that assistant style machine learning out there would be something like Isotope's Ozone or Neutron, which I use all the time. In fact, there's probably an instance of Ozone on the audio for this video because I love that I can take a reference track when I'm mixing, plug it in, and then it will give me a starting point that might have taken me 5, 10, 15 minutes to set up using existing plugins. Then I can use that starting point and my ears to just get into the mixing of the track. For example, if I do a demo for a pedal or a delay unit on there, I can save myself time, but it's still not replacing the important work in there where I'm using my ears, I'm using my experience, I'm using my taste in there to mix the song the way that I like it. It's not mixing the song for me. That's the really important distinction in there. I'm not just going, yeah, put a blind instance of Ozone on this preset is fine, and then everything is just going to end up sounding like that. 10 guitar sounds you've never heard before. What does the inspiration tab spit out over here? So it's taken a little bit more time with the outline. Unveiling the unexpected, gear and set up the tools of the trade, sonic exploration, the journey begins, pushing boundaries, unconventional techniques. This is, again, cool and a nice way to organize your thoughts. But I think in general, when it comes to these sort of machine learning tools for aiding creativity, you sort of have to be creative to start with. And they are at their best, in my opinion anyway, when they can provide a starting point and when they can maybe guide all the creative energy that you have and focus it so that you, on the other end of the video camera, can actually watch something that resembles coherent thought. And I know for me, I love going on big tangents about gear. My videos rarely fall into that kind of 8 to 10 minute sweet spot that YouTube loves. A lot of the time it's 20 minutes, it's 30 minutes. If it's going to be a journey and an exploration, I want to get into that. But just those two ideas, this isn't too bad on there. Let's try brainstorming an idea. Let's say I wanted to do a video about guitar speakers. And you know what? I don't do videos about guitar speakers too much. So I'm going to do it in the style of the other John Brown. And shout out to the other John Brown because John does some fantastic videos about guitar speakers. Let's just hit update idea and let's see what it suggests on here. Speaker shootout, vintage versus modern. 2 popular speaker cabs are put to the test. A classic vintage model and a modern high-tech option. You'll hear the differences in sound and learn which one might be right. So again, this isn't too bad on here, but when we sort of dive into the specifics in here, speaker setup and first impressions, showcase the vintage speaker, showcase the modern speaker, discuss the initial impressions of both speakers. Again, not too bad. Sound comparison, clean tones, sound comparison, overdrive and distortion. Again, not too bad. Conclusion, again, this isn't really providing that much in terms of specifics, but summarize the key differences, highlight which speaker might be a better fit, provide some final thoughts, and encourage viewers to share their experience with different speakers. This doesn't say anything about shaving your head, which I'm convinced is the key to getting a great speaker tone, as you might see on John's channel. But again, this is something that you could probably already do with ChatGPT or any of the other similar tools like that. What it won't do is get the sound of somebody speeding past on a motorbike. What if I did something about, say, 1990s guitar sounds in here? This is interesting. Let's see what it can spit out. You'll see as well that, the thumbnails, that part of it is definitely trash. It's not generating a script, which I personally don't care about because, like I said, I don't do videos with a script. But this is interesting. 1990s guitar sounds inspired by movie scores. Low interest. Why would you spit out anything with low interest for me? I feel like this ranking system on here, it's placing value on what people want to hear rather than what the creator wants to create. So I feel like that one, my immediate reaction, and I don't think this is a good thing about this, is that it's low interest, but that's actually a really interesting idea. If I see that title, I go, hey, that's actually worth exploring versus DIY 90s guitar effects using everyday objects. Now that's actually kind of cool. 90s guitar sounds, the forgotten pedals, very generic in there. 90s guitar tone battle, analog versus digital. This one has been thrashed to death, but you can see very high interest. And then 90s guitar sounds on a budget. Another thing that's been thrashed to death. So this is kind of interesting. I feel like the most interesting thing that this has spat out is the one with low interest. So this is where we get into, I think, some of the downsides with this, I know it's intended to be something that can maybe aid your creativity, but again, you kind of have to have a bunch of creativity to get something out of this. This really feels tiered to kind of just pumping out mid-tier shite, which is my big fear for this inspiration tab and, kind of machine learning based chatbots in general, is that it's enabling crap content to have this veneer of legitimacy about it. And what makes a piece of content legitimate is up for debate. Maybe we won't dive too deep into that one, but it's kind of just taking these really generic topics that are thrashed to death, that everybody watches, that has the clickbait titles. In this case, it's got terrible, thumbnails that are being generated on here. I don't think they are useful at all. Maybe they are useful in being able to actually sniff out the mid-tier shite content. But the downside about this is that rather than, say, being a creator, in my case, I love making videos because I feel like while I'm making my loud guitar noises, I get to try a new pedal, I get to try to teach a new concept. I also get to grow as a guitar player, as an artist, creatively. And also when I'm editing videos, that's also something that flexes a creative muscle in my brain. I really like that process. For me, that's actually something that I do in general all the time, whether I'm learning a new song, whether I'm trying to write a new song. There's something so fundamental to me about my everyday life where making something makes me feel good. It's good for my well-being. It's good for my mental health. It means that, I can sit and talk to a bunch of strangers on the internet and then get their feedback and kind of be part of a discourse about something that I find interesting, rather than it just be a way to make money by rehashing the same ideas. So that element of, all this AI chatbot stuff being just rehashing rather than actual creative growth, and using this in a way that can maybe push you to explore some genuinely new ideas for you. I feel like with this already, there's a couple of things, and it's the very high interest element of it on here, that ranking system that would be massively tempting to just keep making the same video. And, a lot of people out there just kind of keep making the same video over and over again, and it's successful for them, and people like the content and watch it, and that's fine. But as somebody who's a musician and a guitar player, there is that element of always wanting to explore new ideas and find new creative zones. It's that growth and learning versus remixing and rehashing and just kind of doing the same thing. And like I said earlier, churning out a bunch of mid-tier shite for YouTube to suggest to people and sell ads on. So the part of me that loves this new technology is something that is kind of altruistic. It can help you out if you're a creative. Also, I think is going to lead to just a bunch of people pumping out stuff that is just designed to sell more ads on. It's leading to that homogenization of not only guitar YouTube, but YouTube in general, right? The thing is that what's going to happen is the people who are really good at making content for this format, it's kind of stripping out the soul and then it's repackaging it for people who can just, again, jump on the back of that, add this veneer of legitimacy to their mid-tier shite content and kind of have it sort of look like really good stuff. That's the cynical side of it anyways. So yeah, this is interesting. And I did put up a post on my channel the other day on the community tab, and I thought people had some really interesting reactions to that. There are a lot of people who said, man, don't do it. Like, we like what you do. Don't get into this kind of thing. And there were some other people, I think, who had a much more nuanced view of it, probably in step with my personal thoughts on this, like using it as a sort of creative assistant. Or I would love if I could get to the point where, it would take the part of my video where I'm not pulling a terrible guitar face and then take the title that I've chosen and make a thumbnail for it, because thumbnails on YouTube are a massive part of engagement. If you have a really great video with a crap thumbnail, probably not going to do as good as a video that's maybe a bit crap but has a really good thumbnail. And by good thumbnail, I mean it like appeals to that human psychology. Like all the elements are arranged in a way that makes us want to click on it. The color scheme, the clickbaity or rage-baity title on there. And, having done YouTube for well over half a decade now, and having been someone who's been consuming it for, like 15 plus years now, my main criticism of it recently is that everything's being funneled into these silos where if you're someone who makes guitar gear videos, then the videos you might make about a lesson, about a particular song or technique you like, doesn't get suggested as much. Or if you make something that's a reaction to somebody else's video, or you're just rehashing someone else's content, that will get suggested more. YouTube kind of has this reward system built into it, where if you look at the analytics or you look at the interest rating on it with this inspiration tab, you go, well, why am I doing the stuff that I want to do? Maybe I'll just do the things that people want to see. And then you fall into that trap where you just make a mid-tier shite again. What's the point of me trying to make a video like, I don't know, the other John Brown or Rick Beato or John Cordy? They're all really good at what they do. And my strengths lie elsewhere. I want to develop my weaknesses into potential strengths as well. That's just part of, the art and craft of being a musician and being a human being on this earth. But yeah, this is an interesting development. I mean, we all saw it coming, and I'm kind of balanced out between that. I feel like I've been doing this long enough where it can actually benefit me. And maybe if I'm stuck on a video I want to make, it can kind of give me a few little nudges for how to structure the video, or some things that I didn't take into account when I was just writing out some dot points. But the other side of it is it's saying to us as creators, hey, don't actually be creative. Just see this, very high interest. I want you to do that, because that means that people are going to click on that thumbnail. We've got them by the balls. We understand their watching and viewing habits. We know the perfect thumbnail to make, so they'll click that, and we can sell them some ads on it. And the thing outside of, making loud guitar noises on YouTube that concerns me is, if you're somebody who's out there very cynically exploiting these algorithms to make misinformation, what's this going to do? If you're somebody out there who's making flat earth videos, or you're making, I don't know, anti-science videos or something like that, or you're just peddling misinformation in general, is this going to pop up a bunch of ideas that are just going to accelerate that misinformation cycle? Is this just going to create an even bigger hellscape on YouTube when it comes to misinformation and things like that? I can even see it pumping out misinformation for things about, like, gain staging, or really basic stuff that, most musicians over time will learn and want to share with one another. Again, there's that altruistic element where the reason I do YouTube is, yes, for me, I get to flex some creative muscles that I like to develop. I get to make loud guitar noises, but I also get to share with people, because there's things that I've learned on this platform that a generation ago, people were keeping secret. They were keeping it as part of their little purple circle. And now we can all share it with the world, and we can actually make it a little bit easier for people starting out, or people who are experienced trying to do something. I love going on YouTube when I want to figure out how to unclog my drain and watch a bunch of videos about that and then go out and do it. But I can see that kind of bleeding edge really going into things like misinformation and the dark side of the internet that we are all well aware of. So yeah, the irony, of course, is that, there's going to be some kind of machine learning algorithm that uses suggestion to push this out to everybody. So maybe people like this kind of video where I sit here and talk about technology in general, whether it is related to making loud guitar noises or not, whether it's a peek behind the veil to what I do on YouTube, or whether it's just stuff that, no one wants to hear me talk for 20 minutes about machine learning and AI content generation. But if you do, please, let me know in the comment section below. There's a lot of smart people watching this, and I know that you all have thoughts about this. I'm genuinely curious to hear from you in the comment section. How do you feel about this kind of stuff? Are you on the just going to pump out a bunch of like low to mid tier shit for people to watch, and now you're going to have to wade through even more stuff on YouTube to find what you want? Or is it going to make the content that you already like consuming even better? Is it going to help maybe content creators who are starting out to focus their ideas and get a kickstart on the platform? Very curious to know. Let me know in the comment section below. So interesting. What a time to be alive, hey? I will also say, if you want to support what I do directly, there are links to my Patreon. You can get access to a bunch of exclusive content. You can listen to some of the music I actually make with my band Ragdoll, and hopefully you can all have a great holiday season. You can go and make some loud guitar noises yourselves, or if you're play some other instrument, make loud or not loud noises on that instrument. Be good to yourselves, be good to one another out there, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.